Hi, this is Pete, and welcome back to another episode of Walking with the Coach. So today, there's something with a little bit of a difference. I'm going to get interviewed. So my interviewer, Anya, is standing right behind the camera, and she's going to ask me some questions. So go ahead.
So, why do we travel?
Why do we travel? Okay, so the reason we travel is to give us a sense of variety. We've always traveled through the history of humanity. We started off as nomads anyways. So we travel to give us that sense of variety, whether it's for pleasure or for business, and sometimes just simply to get away from boredom.
And what makes us move?
What makes us move? Again, sense of variety. Sometimes we move places. If we refer to this as moving to live in a different place, it's mostly opportunity driven, but sometimes it is, again, wanting to change, seeking out that change to be able to explore further afield.
How many countries have you lived in?
So that's a difficult calculation. I've moved countries 13 times. I believe it's been 8 different countries.
And how many cities?
Up to now, the count is at 19 different cities I've actually lived in, and coming up to 20, which will be Moscow.
So, what do you think of those who don't like to travel?
Those who don't like to travel, I mean, again, this is a personal preference. You don't have to travel to be happy, but I believe that traveling gives you a different perspective of life. It gives you a broader perspective, a broader vision. And when somebody refuses to travel or doesn't like to travel, I believe they're closing themselves in. They're becoming more insular, and they don't open themselves to new opportunities and challenges and change.
What differences are more evident in people who travel and those who don't?
Right? People who travel, again, they've got a broader perspective on life and culture. They can talk about many more things, and they also have a different way of looking at situations and looking at life and looking at even at problems or challenges. And this is quite important. Because again, the broader a person has traveled, the more experience they have with other cultures, the less racism and prejudice there will be. It's quite an interesting thing. But then again, it's interesting, but it is not out of logic. It is also very, very logical.
Is your life richer because you have traveled?
And life is definitely richer because I've traveled. I can guarantee you that. I've traveled since I was a kid, and I do believe my life is richer. Again, the only benchmark I have for this is myself. My family is very well traveled, and my friends are very well traveled. And then again, we are a combination of all those who we hang out with, aren't we? So yeah, I believe my life is much richer because I travel.
Has your vision of life changed as you traveled more?
My vision of life changes, and it becomes more profound, deeper every time I travel to a new place, a place with a different culture. And this is absolutely beautiful because sometimes you get to a place and it opens up your eyes so drastically. And expands my vision tremendously.
And how about your perspective on humanity?
My perspective on humanity is definitely changes as I travel, simply because I get to meet more people of different cultures, and I try to integrate. I really do. In many cases, I've tried to integrate into cultures where the language is not even the same, which will be the case soon when I move over to Russia. But yeah, absolutely. See, the perspective on humanity changes because you start understanding the more people you know, you understand the more the varieties that this world has to offer, but you also look at the equalities, and you also look at the things that make us human. You know, the common things that make us human in our behaviors and our patterns. They're very similar, whether you come from Russia or you come from England or the United States or Mexico or Timbuktu. There is a commonality there. And this, every time I travel, I am more and more convinced that there's only one place, and this place is planet Earth. There's only one nationality, let's call it. And this is, being an Earthling. And there is only one race, the human race. But the other thing is, it helps us embrace the differences because we are all different. One person to the next. My sister and I are completely different. We're exactly the same race, Dutch Mexican, all right. But yeah, it does broaden my perspective on humanity, looking at the differences as well as the commonalities, and it's beautiful.
What do you think happiness is?
Happiness is when your expectation of life meets your experience of life. So when these two things are in balance, then that's what happiness is. And travel has a lot to do with it because the more you travel, the higher your expectations. So you really do need to keep it in check and keep that balance because your expectation can go so high that your experience just will not meet up to it. And then you end up having to travel even more to be able to meet up with that expectation.
Mm-hmm. Do you know your purpose in life?
I do. I absolutely do. My purpose in life is to be able to help all the people that I have the privilege to meet and to know and who I want to help and will allow themselves to be helped.
Where will you go to next and why?
Well, I'm going to go to Moscow in about 3 days. And why? Because I am arranging things for my wedding. And why Moscow? Because my fiance lives there. But where will I live next? Well, the answer is the same. Moscow. And of course, I will miss Alicante. But there's always something new to discover in new places. And we should never be afraid of change. We should embrace it, take a hold of it, and do the best you can with it. And to be honest, every place I move, I'll always take my own heart and my own smile. So this is it for my interview right now. And just remember to subscribe to our channel and share it. Remember, live with purpose in your life. Live with passion in your heart. And live with love. I'll see you next time. And peace.